It is the market update desk with Scott Riley, June 20th. What does June 20th mean? It means summer solstice. We've been waiting for so many weeks, months for time to keep expanding during the day. Sunlight. We finally reached the precipice of it. And unfortunately, now starting tomorrow, we're going to starting to go backwards on losing sunlight. So it is a little depressing. Um, I'm always very anxious as the daylight expands during the year. Now that we're here, it's always kind of a bummer as we get on the flip side of that and start to lose sunlight. So one of the things we wanted to review today was Fed Governor Waller's um, interview today on CNBC. Was very interesting. I want to run through some of the things he said, where he thinks the where he thinks the Fed should be, and why. So, Governor Waller said on Friday, this morning, that he does not expect tariffs to boost inflation significantly. So, policymakers should be looking to lower interest rates as early as the next meeting in July. That's kind of a surprise. We've talked about it. Tariffs are most likely going to be a one off hit to inflation numbers and not ingrain themselves each month, month over month. So he's thinking the same thoughts we had been. Also, in the interview, the central banker said that he and his colleagues should start to move slowly. I'm sorry, colleagues should move slowly, but start to ease as inflation is not posing major economic threats, which he does expect to continue with not being major economic threats. One of his quotes is, I think we're in position and we could be as early as July to lower rates. Waller said that he thinks the Fed should cut to avoid potential slowdown in the labor market. As we've been talking about, the unemployment numbers are a critical number to watch as we move forward because that's one of the sides of the dual mandate of the Fed. If you're starting to worry about the downside risk to the labor market, move now, don't wait, he said. Why do we want to wait until we actually see a crash before we start cutting rates? So I'm all in favor of saying maybe we start thinking about cutting the policy rate at the next meeting because we don't want to wait until the job market tanks before we start cutting the policy rate, unquote. Now, according to the dot plot of individual officials' expectations for interest rates this year, 7 of the 19 participants or members said that they see rates holding steady this year. Just 2 saw one cut likely this year, while the remaining 10 expected 2, potentially 3 reductions. This dispersion reflects a sense of uncertainty between the members on where rates are headed and what policy should be. One of the other quotes he said, you'd want to start slow, but bring the rates down slowly. Just make sure that there's no big surprises, but start the process. That's the key thing, Waller said. And quote, we've been on pause for 6 months to wait and see. And so far, the data has been fine. I don't think we need to wait much longer because even if the tariffs come in later, the impacts are still the same. It should be a one off level effect and not cause persistent inflation. A lot of what we've been talking about. um, Going into a lot of what the Fed results were from their dot plot and other information Wednesday. So the Fed did downgrade the economy. They're now expecting GDP at about 1.4% annually growth. That's down from 1.7. They think unemployment rate will go from its current level of 4.2 to 4.5. That was that magic number we've been talking about. Previously, they believed it would get as high as 4.4. So they're off usually on their initial numbers. Lastly, and most importantly, they significantly raised the core PCE inflation expectations. They think it's going to move from its current 2.5% level to 3.1. They previously had it at 2.8%. Powell said that the reason for the higher inflation forecast is that he thinks the tariffs will cause prices to rise in coming months. It's definitely different than what we just heard Governor Waller talking about. So there seems to be a lack of consensus within messaging from Fed members. In the press conference, he said the Fed is always looking forward. And he gave an example during COVID. When COVID hit, Powell said the economy had not shown signs of slowing immediately, even though stocks tumbled, and they reacted via rate cuts. But what he failed to mention, conveniently, is that what he failed to mention was how they were not forward looking once inflation actually took hold and started to rise and had a ton of stimulus, yet they kept rates at basically zero, but they kept buying because they were backwards looking. He talks about forward looking, but time after time, with lag effects of housing and shelter costs, along with decision processes and uncertainty about where these tariffs are going to be, yet report after report dispels what they've been talking about. So I do not believe at all that they're forward looking. Looks like the 10-year bond right now is sitting at about 4.388. We've ticked up, we've ticked down. We made it through the week fairly unscathed, which is great news. Balance and calmness is very important. Now we're going up against a weekend again, and anything can happen. We obviously have the major conflict in the Middle East, and that can be anybody's best guess. One of the things we're watching closely is energy and oil prices. As WTI crude oil starts to creep up, energy costs start to creep up, and that definitely at some point will filter through inflation numbers. And maybe that's going to be a headwind against future gains in the treasury market. So we'll keep on top of that. We're working all weekend again. 616-293-2189. Give us a call. We'll help you get pre-approved. Work with your agent to help get your offer accepted, and then get you the best program and process available. 616-293-2189, the Market Update Desk, your original singular market news source for West Michigan. Have a great weekend.